So some interesting news regarding WWE Monday Night Raw superstars Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, because WWE Chairman Vince McMahon, as he has done with several talents over the course of just the history of WWE, has reportedly given up on both the former Hurt Business stars. Now, WWE Chairman Vince McMahon, he's often been criticized about not using certain talents properly, but the latest names that could be added to the list that Vince McMahon has given up on is Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. Now, in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reported that Bobby Lashley tried to talk Vince McMahon out of this in terms of breaking up the Hurt Business, but the WWE Chairman has given up on Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin being pushed by the WWE. So as to what is next for Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, who knows, frankly, because last night they were part of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, but they were quickly eliminated. But if Dave Meltzer is to be believed, Vince McMahon has just given up on the idea of pushing them both. Now, when I saw this, I mean, it goes back into, first of all, when it comes to this story by Meltzer, again, and I always say this when I talk about Dave Meltzer, one of these kind of things, a lot of the times when you see these stories, this is ultimately Dave Meltzer's opinion. And I think that's really important to state, that it's his opinion in these kind of situations. It's very obvious that, I don't know if he probably hasn't spoken to anyone in WWE regarding this. He's just like a lot of pro wrestling fans and a lot of fans of WWE over the year. He's looking and seeing what's in front of him, and he's seeing that the Hurt Business have been split up. The two lower members, shall we say, in the Hurt Business was Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. They got split up, and in the last couple of weeks on Raw, they've both been destroyed by Bobby Lashley. That gives you the indication as to what WWE's plans are for them. This is something that Dave Meltzer has been saying for the last few weeks. Now, I don't necessarily think he's wrong. I don't think he's wrong at all. It's becoming... This is a weird thing for Vince McMahon. This is a weird thing for Vince McMahon. And look, as I mentioned at the start, over the years he's done this. Over the course of several years, he starts pushes with people, and then, or he really likes them, and then he gives up on them or anything like that. But what we've kind of seen a lot, we've seen this happen a lot over the course of the last few years, whereby Vince McMahon or the WWE will push someone, and then the push is pulled very, very quickly. Very quickly it's pulled away. And then you hear the report of Vince McMahon's given up on them, or Vince McMahon doesn't see anything in them, or Vince McMahon has just decided that they're not right anymore, or they don't get it, or there's something missing, etc. And all of these pushes initially come from someone else advocating for them, whether it's Paul Heyman, whether it's Bruce Pritchard, whether it's Eric Bischoff, whether it's whoever, openly go, no, we need to push this person, we need to push this person, we need to use this person, and then for whatever reason they don't get used. And I think there's so many names over the course of the last couple of years that we've seen this by. Young, up-and-coming talents where the fan base is really behind them, the fans really like them, and the fans look at these talents, and a lot of people within the industry look at these talents and say, man, these people are so talented, they've got to be used in the future. I mean, so Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin, I know Shelton Benjamin's a veteran at this point, and it would be questionable whether he gets this giant push in WWE anyway, but certainly Cedric Alexander. Ricochet. Right, Ricochet comes up to the main roster, gets a big push initially, and then just suddenly, I mean, like that, it felt like overnight he became nothing. Overnight. It was like that Brock Lesnar feud. He got the chance against Brock Lesnar, he got destroyed in something ridiculous like 60 seconds, and then Ricochet, I mean, he's just king of main event, not in the good sense. King of main events on Hulu or wherever that program airs, or on the network. I don't even know where it is anymore. That's Ricochet every single week. And again, you hear, well, what happened to Ricochet? Vince McMahon just given up on him. Vince McMahon's given up on him. Why? He's just decided that he doesn't have it. Whatever it is, he doesn't have it. Another one, Humberto Carrillo, comes after Ricochet almost, doesn't he? Humberto Carrillo, suddenly he's the one. Monday Night Raw, he's the one that's going to get this big push. He's going to be the big next Hispanic, Latino babyface. It's going to be Humberto Carrillo. Gets a push for a couple of weeks, and then suddenly Humberto Carrillo just disappears. What happens to him? The report comes out, Vince McMahon's given up on him. Vince McMahon, he's just given up. This guy he doesn't get it. He gives up on him. And Cedric Alexander's the same, and Aleister Black gets really heavily featured, and then you're going, okay, this is great. And then suddenly Aleister Black just disappears, or just starts losing, or weird stuff starts happening with the character, and you go, what happened? Vince McMahon gave up on him. And you kind of hear this all and over again. And look, when it comes to stuff like this, look, at the end of the day, and I say this quite a lot, this is Vince McMahon's company. This is Vince McMahon's company. It's his organization. It's his toy box and his toys, and he can do whatever he wants. whatever he wants. Ultimately, if you sign the contract to work for the guy, you have to know what you're getting yourself in for, and that it's his company and he can do what he wants with you. But it's this weird, it's just sort of a weird phenomenon. And again, this has happened for years and years, but especially over the course of the last few years, of these younger talents that come up, they get initially, not a big push, but they get featured. And then, I mean, they get dropped. Again, it's almost overnight. It's not like back in the day where someone would just maybe start losing and then suddenly they start slowly losing matches and slowly dropping down the card. This is something like overnight. Suddenly Vince McMahon just throws his hands up in the air. Oh, I don't get it. You can't. They're missing something. You're missing it. And that's so frustrating for me as a fan that's watching when they say, oh, he's missing it. Oh, Vince McMahon's giving up. He can't figure out what it is. We've tried everything. You have not tried everything. They used to say that about like Aleister Black, and they said about Cesaro, we've tried everything. What, you've tried terrible gimmicks. You tried putting an eye patch on Aleister Black. You tried Cesaro. You had it in yodeling once. Oh, we tried everything to get you over. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. And when it comes back to the Hurt Business, how can you give up on two people where the gimmick you had them in was working? It was working. It's one thing to say that, like with Ricochet, it's one thing to say that, look, Ricochet's unbelievably talented. The gimmick they had him in, the whole real-life superhero, that was horrible. That was horrible. The promos were awful. They were, I mean, I can't even describe them as cheesy. I mean, it's sort of a 200-year-old Stilton. It was that cheesy. They were horrendous, right? And as a fan, I was watching them and I wanted to turn off. I went, that's just terrible. And you can argue that that's not working. And again, I still don't understand why Vince McMahon would give up on someone as talented as Ricochet, but you can kind of see his thought process of, oh, it's not working, I give up. When it comes to Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander, they were in something that was working. They were in a gimmick. They were in a faction that was over. They were in a faction that was one of the best things of Monday Night Raw. And that's a lot as well, because there aren't a lot of good things on Monday Night Raw. That show is brutal to watch. That show is painful to watch on so many occasions. That is painful to watch. It is a 3-hour slog every single week, and you kind of have to get through that show, you have to pick your moments. You have to go, okay, that segment's going to be good, I think. I enjoyed that. I'm not enjoying that. That's boring. Oh, here's the 10th recap package of the show. Here's the 10th replay of the show. Here's just the strangeness that occurs over 3 hours. Nobody wants to watch. Nobody wants to watch that for 3 hours, but you do because either you have to or you have... You know, we wonder why the live ratings are down. It's because no one can watch 3 hours of live television every Monday. They'd rather wait till tomorrow and then fast forward it. They'd rather go on social media and watch it there. They'd rather watch the highlights on YouTube the next day. So you have to pick your moments. You have to pick your moments about what, okay, well, that's good. I like that. I don't like that. They're good. Their segments are entertaining. You have to pick it segment by segment. That's how you get through Raw. And 9 times out of 10, the Hurt Business, their segments, they were money to watch. They were enjoyable to watch. When you watch the Hurt Business, when you watch their matches or their promos or just the presentation that they had, you watched it and you went, actually, that's good. That's good television. That's good pro wrestling. I enjoy that. And I don't understand how Vince McMahon can then decide to split them up and say, oh, I just give up on them. How can you give up on something that's working? It just seems very odd. And what's so strange about this, and... You know, I mentioned that we've done videos on him as well, where you hear the reports of Lashley and MVP have gone to Vince McMahon and said, why are you splitting us up? It doesn't make any sense. Because it doesn't... whenever I hear things like this, I try and think of it from, say, someone like Vince McMahon's perspective. I try and see it as, okay, what's he seeing? What's he seeing? What does he think that they can achieve by this? What did they achieve by splitting up the Hurt Business here? If you think that it was meant to help the WrestleMania match between Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre, okay, but what did it help? What did it achieve? It achieved nothing. It was random. It didn't make any sense. I know they'd been teasing it on Raw for months because that's what they like to do. They like to sort of tease that a faction could split up at any point in time. What did it achieve? It didn't achieve anything. Did it add any more heat to the match between McIntyre and Lashley? No. I know they'll try and say it put over Lashley as appearing to be stronger, but I don't think that's the case. We always knew. You call him the Almighty every 5 seconds. He doesn't need to beat up his own teammates to be considered a worthy WWE champion or a monster. We know he's a monster. You know, he destroyed Drew McIntyre. That allowed The Miz to cash in his Money in the Bank. You don't need any more convincing. So the idea that maybe they needed to split up the Hurt Business to get over Lashley more is ridiculous. Surely going into WrestleMania, Lashley would be more of a threat if he had all of these people with him. And I know that the stipulation was that Benjamin and Alexander were banned from ringside, which again tells us that the splitting up of the Hurt Business was just a random decision made one week by Vince McMahon or the creative team to say, okay, we're going to split them up, because they wouldn't have put that stipulation in the first place of having these guys banned from ringside if they were going to split them up, because it's redundant. So it goes back to all of this. It goes back to all of this just strange decision to split up the Hurt Business, and it wasn't needed. It wasn't needed. And you do worry. You do worry for Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin now, because what are they going to do? Because what were they doing before the Hurt Business? Nothing. So there's no reason to suggest they're going to be doing something after the Hurt Business, because they weren't doing anything before it. Before the Hurt Business, Shelton Benjamin was doing those goofy faces on SmackDown, like that, chasing the 24/7 championship and calling Chad Gable short every 5 seconds. That's what he did. Cedric Alexander was Cruiserweight champion, great, but then didn't do much on Monday Night Raw. Had that brief period, what was it, 2019, where he randomly started teaming with Roman Reigns, didn't he? When he showed up and he was the janitor under a mask and then all that kind of stuff. And that was meant to be his push. But again, like Vince McMahon, he gave up on him after about 2 or 3 weeks. Now I don't like him. He's missing something. And then it felt like he'd kind of got a second chance when he was in the Hurt Business, because after that he teamed with Ricochet, which, to be honest, being with Ricochet on WWE television is the kiss of death, because that guy's doing nothing as well. It felt like a second chance. But now, coming out of the Hurt Business, what's he going to do again? Nothing. Nothing. He will do nothing, because that's what they were doing prior to the Hurt Business. So it doesn't make any sense. And universally on social media, or legends or wrestlers or whoever, everyone said it was way too soon. It was way too soon. And don't get me wrong, every faction has a shelf life. Every faction can't stay around forever. Obviously, there are certain factions that maybe can, but everyone eventually has to split up, or they have to, at the very least, mutually decide to go their own ways, because things need to evolve and things need to change. But this faction, I'm not exaggerating, could have been around for 2 more years. It really could have. Look at the big factions in WWE history. Look at the Shield. They worked together, what? They made the debut in 2012, split up in 2014, 18 months, 2 years. Look at Evolution. They were really founded right after WrestleMania 19. They split up officially, WrestleMania 21? I mean, later on that year, because of Ric Flair as well. So maybe they were around like 2 years, 2 and a bit years. The Authority, God, Lord knows they were around for long enough, weren't they? They were around from what? WrestleMania, they were around from what, sort of 2014 to at least 2016. So again, 2 and a bit years. They're more than happy to give those factions plenty of time to stick around, but the Hurt Business gets less than a year. It's ludicrous. It was way too soon. Lashley's not happy about it. MVP's not happy about it. I mean, I don't think Cedric Alexander or Shelton Benjamin went to Vince McMahon to try and pitch it, because they don't have seniority. I think MVP does because of his tenure, and I think obviously Bobby Lashley does because he's a WWE champion. But ultimately, it's Vince McMahon's call. And again, you can't criticize him for that because it's his call. But what you can criticize him for is that it's a bad call. Now, obviously, could be wrong. I'll hold my hands up if I am wrong. I could be wrong and say that if Bobby Lashley and MVP, if Bobby Lashley retains the WWE Championship tonight at WrestleMania, or Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander get these massive pushes and they're both champions by the end of the year, that's great. But they got eliminated pretty quickly last night on SmackDown in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And it's a bad call. That's ultimately what it is. It's a bad call, and it's just, again, it's another example of this just weird thing we've seen over the course of the last few years of these superstars getting pushed for a month. In some cases, it's like a month. They're heavily featured on, they go from doing nothing to going into the main event scene and then disappearing again. And then the story comes out, Vince McMahon gave up. It's like this weird audition that Vince McMahon has with these stars. And if they don't please him, but I don't get how they could please him. Who can get over that quickly in a month? Especially with the WWE creative process. You can't. You can only use what you're given. How is it Cedric Alexander's fault if he's given terrible creative? Because they're not allowed to go off script. They have to do what they're told. How is that Cedric Alexander's fault? And I know they'll say, well, you have to make chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what. But, maybe look a bit more internally, as opposed to the talent themselves. Maybe. I don't know. It's just, I could talk about this forever, but we've got so much more to talk about today. So it's just very interesting that reportedly Vince McMahon has given up once again on Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Vince McMahon reportedly giving up on Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander and the splitting up of the Hurt Business? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, gut the rankings, and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.